بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to resume our study of precious book Ādāb al-Salāt by the late Imam Khomeini. As you remember, our discussion was about chapter 9 of the first part or section, which included some hadith about huzur al-qalb, presence of heart. I mentioned some hadith and then we said there are few more that we will discuss at the beginning of next session. The last hadith with which we ended our previous session was from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, and it's so beautiful that I would like to remind ourselves about this beautiful hadith about salat. So Imam Baqir alayhi salam quotes Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying, when a believing servant stands up for salat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would look at him or would welcome him till he or she turns away. So when you stand up for salat, till you are in that condition, there is a special look by Allah upon you, and the mercy of Allah will provide shadow upon him or her, and angels will surround them, and also this continues up to the horizon, and Allah will commission an angel to stand above his head or her head and say, O Musalli, O the one who is saying prayer, if you know who is looking at you and with whom you are whispering, you would not pay attention to anywhere else, and you would not want to leave this place. So every time that we stand for salat, we should know that this is something very special. You know, unfortunately, because we have been given this gift easily, freely, and you know, as many times as we want, we may underestimate. But if you have been given something special easily, you shouldn't underestimate. You should be more grateful. If you are able to have, for example, meeting with the king every day, while millions of people don't have this. So you shouldn't think that this is something normal. This is not normal. If there is a very beautiful, for example, garden next to your home, very beautiful garden that only some people have access. There is a lake, there are beautiful flowers, trees, etc. And you have access, you can go every day there, but not everyone has the key. So you should not underestimate that. So Allah looks at you, angels surround you, and there is a special angel commissioned. So this hadith is very, very beautiful. Okay, now the next hadith, which we didn't study, so that was the last hadith, is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, eagerness and fear do not get together in any heart unless heaven becomes necessary for that heart. So when you say your prayer, with your heart go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no believing servant who goes with his or her heart in prayer or dua towards Allah, unless then Allah turns the hearts of believers towards that person and would support them with those people and take to heaven. So Allah's control of the hearts is something that we know. He is muqallibul qulub. He is the one who has the keys of the hearts. Of course, you don't say your salat with presence of heart in order to have love of people or even love of mu'mineen maybe. It's not your main target. Your main target is to benefit from Allah's presence. But this is also good that mu'mineen would then love you and support you. And not because you are, drawing their attention towards you. No, you are doing something great and Allah would also support you in this way. We have had this from both Imam Baqir alayhi salam and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about presence of heart, which is saying that, of course, we have many hadiths. You are just saying some samples which are in the book. There is nothing from your salat for you unless that much that you had presence of heart. So this is the one that is spiritually useful for us when we have the presence of heart. If someone doesn't say salat properly, for example, is heedless, the salat will be wrapped and turned back to the musalli, to the one who was saying salat. Imam Baqir alayhi salam also said, salat rises, maybe half of it, maybe 1/3 of it, maybe 1/4, 1/5. That much that the person has presence of heart. And he said, we are asked to do nafila so that would compensate, would complete what we are missing. We have similar from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And finally, there is a hadith that Rasulullah said to Abu Dhar, rahmatullah alayh, that 2 rak'ah, with moderation, maybe it's not taking that long, it's not with long recitation, long ruku, long sujood, mutawassit, moderate. 2 moderate rak'ah of salat with contemplation is better than standing up the whole night while your heart is heedless. Maybe you spend few hours standing for salat in the night, but without presence of heart. And someone else or you yourself in another condition say 2 rak'ah salat, but your mind and heart are engaged in tafakkur, in thinking about Allah, remembering Allah, etc. Which one is better? Those 2 rak'ah are better. So, this was remaining of chapter 9. Chapter 10 is a call for acquiring and obtaining presence of heart. And then chapter 11 is where Imam Khomeini offers solutions to get rid of obstacles for presence of heart. So chapter 10 is preparation for that, based on what we have already discussed. He says, we discussed significance of presence of heart based on reasoning and based on hadith, rational reasoning based on hadith. We realize how great it is to have presence of heart and how dangerous it is to miss presence of heart. But he says knowing these things is not enough. Just you know. For example, I say, I have been reading this book, I have been teaching this book. You say, we had studied this book, we have, passed exam. No, this is not enough. Knowledge is just one step. And if it doesn't lead to practice, if it doesn't improve our practice, it becomes actually hujjah against us. You knew, or you had chance to know. No one could say, okay, I don't want to know because I don't want hujjah against me. If you were able to know, that's also hujjah. So, this knowledge has to have impact on our practice. Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayh, as a marja, sometimes, for example, a scholar, even a great scholar, says something. Sometimes a marja says something, who is also a philosopher, who is arif, who is muhaddis. Okay, so when he says this, it's coming from all the diverse and multiple disciplines that he mastered. He says that if we don't have presence of heart, our salat is not accepted, because as you know, presence of heart is the key for acceptance. As much as we have presence, the salat is accepted. Then presence of salat is the key for acceptance of other actions. إن قبلت قبل ما سواها وإن ردت رد ما سواها. If salat is accepted, other things will be accepted. If salat is not accepted, salat is your best amal. If your best amal is not acceptable, what about the rest of your amal? Okay? So, he says, pass. This sentence is very important. I want to read for you in Farsi and translate word by word. This is very, brief, but has lots of things. کلید گنجینه اعمال و باب الابواب همه سعادات حضور قلب است. I hope I can absorb this. I myself, I'm talking about myself. I need this sentence to remain always in my mind and heart. He says the key for the treasure of a'mal and gate of the gates for all kinds of sa'ada, felicity, is huzur qalb, is the presence of heart. If you have presence of heart in your salat, the gate of sa'ada will be open to you. آن فتح باب سعادت بر انسان می شود و بدون آن, and without this key, جمیع عبادات. I said he's a marja also. He's a arif, he's a philosopher. He says بدون آن جمیع عبادات از درجه اعتبار ساقط می شود. And without this, all worships will lose their validity. Of course, you know the difference between Sahha and Qabul. Yes, from fiqh point of view, salat without presence of heart is valid. So you have fulfilled your taklif. But valid is something, to be accepted is something else. To be valid means, okay, you are not going to be questioned and punished, why you didn't say your salat. But if you want to benefit from salat, which is mi'rajul mu'min, which is the key for all the treasures, which is the gate of the gates of felicity, you need qabul, not just sihha. So now you better understand this famous quote. I think I mentioned this before, that many ulama have quoted this from the late Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Qadhi Tabatabai, teacher of Allama Tabatabai, Ayatollah Bahjat, Ayatollah Khui in certain stage of his life, Ayatollah al-Uzma Sayyid Hadi Milani, Rahmatullah alayh, Ayatollah Mirza Muhammad Taqi Amali, many of our ulama were his spiritual students. There's a famous quote that he used to say, if you say your salat on time and you don't reach what you want, meaning nearness to Allah and high levels of spirituality, you can curse me. He said presence, he didn't talk about presence of heart in this particular sentence, but he said, if you say your salat on time. So now we can understand that maybe better, because it means that when you are regular and always say your salat on time, then inshallah salat becomes something very natural for you, and your mind would be always ready, because you are regular. Your mind is actually like an alarm clock telling you, now is the time to pray. Your heart is ready. So presence of heart and being regular in doing salat on time and giving priority to salat are very much connected with each other. And both saying of Imam Khomeini and Ayatollah Qadhi confirm that the key is salat. We should emphasize on salat. We should give priority to salat. We should not underestimate salat. It's very, very important. Something, very easy to understand. Not easy to practice, but very easy to understand. And we sometimes look for strange things. We think, the reason I am not very much advanced is because I don't know certain strange things. Yes, there are many things that we don't know. But what we need is something that we know. At least for many, many stages of spirituality, we know what to do. The main thing is we need to practice. So he says, now that you know this, take this very seriously. He says, کلید در سعادت و درهای بهشت و کلید در شقاوت و درهای جهنم در این دنیا در جیب خود توست. You have the keys for felicity and gates of heaven in your pocket. You have also the keys for shaqawa, for misfortune, and gates of hell in your pocket. All the keys are given to you in dunya. You can open the gates of heaven and felicity, or you can, na'udhu billah, open the gates of misfortune and hell. It's up to you. Allah has completed hujjah. Allah has given us enough of understanding and enough of power and control. He has given you tawfiqat. We have discussed about tawfiq in Hawz Akhlaq series before. If you want, you can search for it. What is tawfiq? Anyway, he has prepared the situation for you, and you have lots of instructions, recommendations from Prophet and Ahlul Bayt and ulama. So everything is now up to you. There is no excuse left. عذری باقی نگذاشت. No one can say, I didn't know. So Imam Khomeini says, تو نیز از خواب غفلت برخیز. Wake up from a sleep of heedlessness and go towards the path of felicity and benefit from your life. If you are a young person, you have the best opportunity. Because he says when you become old, you realize challenges of old age. So don't wait for becoming middle age or old. The best time, if you want to establish good salat, is to start when you are young. But if you are old already, still you have chance. And still you have opportunity. Don't let this also go, and then you will regret forever. Oh dear, ay Aziz, oh dear, believe in what was said, which is saying of the prophets, and you can also say all imams and awliyaullah. Belief in this is very important, and you have then to prepare yourself and gain presence of heart in your salat. Then he says we have some issues here to tackle. One, removing obstacles for presence of heart. This path has some barriers, some obstacles, some thorns are on the path. So we need to remove them. What is the main obstacle is تشتت خاطر و کثرت واردات قلبیه. Basically you can say divided mind, divided thoughts, and frequent occurrences of thoughts and ideas to heart and mind. This is the problem, or this is one big problem, one big obstacle. Sometimes these are a result of external things through your senses. For example, there is noise that distracts you. Maybe there is something that you see and distracts you. Maybe temperature is distracting you. Maybe some smell is distracting you. Yeah? So it can be sometimes because of external things and through your senses. But it's not always because of that. Sometimes also our own imagination keeps bringing things to us. Even if you close your eyes and you don't hear anything, still thoughts can come internally. He says that second martyr, Shahid al-Thani, the one who is the author of Munyatul Murid, he quotes from some of the practicing believers that it's better to have a place for salat which is small and dark, so that there is no other things and even no too much light that would distract you. They used to say the salat in such a empty, dark place. But Imam Khomeini says this can help, but this is not going to stop the problem. Because the main problem, not all the problem, but the main problem is from our own imagination and our own qawwiyya khayal, which even if you are in a dark place or empty place, still can bring things to your mind and heart. Sometimes even, for example, some people, if they are in a dark place, they can be more affected by these unwanted thoughts. The main solution is to gain control over our imagination. That's the main solution. Although other things also can help, to be in a quiet and nice, place without, distractions. Then he says two important sources of problems for presence of heart are to be tackled. In addition to the external things, these are internal ones, which are the main issues. One, to learn how to control this bird of imagination, ta'ir khayal, this fantasy, which is wandering and escaping all the time. First, you think about your room or your house or office, then goes to other places. For example, you are at work, you think about home during Salat. I don't know about your parents, about your children, about others, good things, bad things, different things come to your mind. Food, drink. This is like a bird that keeps flying from one branch to another branch. And he says this is not necessarily for being a bad person. We will talk about hubbud dunya as the second problem. That's different. Even he says people who don't have attachment to dunya, they can suffer from this bird of imagination who goes everywhere. And he says to be able to control your imagination and have a kind of peace and tranquility is very important achievement. And Urafa very much discuss about how to control your thoughts. So this is one thing which we need to discuss, and this is actually the topic for next chapter, chapter 11. The other source for internal problems is hubbut dunya, an attachment to dunya, which is the root and foundation for all the problems. Hubbut dunya ra'su kull khati'ah. And he says it is ummul amrad al-batinah, is the main, is the mother of all spiritual illnesses, is hubbut dunya, and causes all the suffering. And as long as our heart is attached to dunya, we cannot have presence of heart. And all the gates of Sa'ada are closed to us. So in chapter 12, we talk about hubb dunya. So two internal obstacles for presence of heart are: one, wandering of imagination; two, hubb dunya. He has allocated one chapter to each. But external obstacles are easy. You can manage yourself. You know how to find a place that has less external distractions, whether it is sound, whether it is things that you see around you, pictures, I don't know, other things that, because sometimes you see things which help you to have focus, sometimes you see things which are not helpful, a smell, etc. Inshallah, in the next session we will talk about chapter 11 and how to control our imagination. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to appreciate this great gift of Salat and benefit from it more, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Do you have any question?
Assalamu alaikum, Agha.
Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah.
Just well, I hope it's a quick question, but when we are trying to save ourselves from external distractions, and have a space to our own, all the rest of it, I sometimes feel it's easy, like to maintain that connection. But surely, and I'm thinking specifically like when we go to Hajj or Ziyarah, and there's a lot of distractions, there's a lot of noise, there's lots of, mass of humanity. Isn't the object to be able to maintain that state of connection despite the distractions? And how do we train ourselves to do that?
Yeah. Of course, if you manage to make this a habit, then even if there are noises or distractions, you would not be affected. But initially, yes. Like for example, a person who has just learned how to drive. If people talk to this new driver, can be distracting. But if he's an established driver, they may not distract him. So we have to train ourselves. But till you reach that point, it's very important to avoid as much as possible external and internal distractions, both. But actually, I wanted to say this, and I'm happy that you reminded me that to say. This should not be an excuse not to attend Salatul Jama'ah, because our Maraja and our ulama say that Salatul Jama'ah is more important than feeling more quiet at home, when you are alone, for example. Or even, for example, sometimes Salatul Jama'ah, for example, maybe it's few minutes late, or maybe half an hour, 1 hour late, but you can do Salat Furada beginning of time. Normally Salatul Jama'ah is at the beginning of time, but suppose there is a situation that they do Salatul Jama'ah a little bit late, and you can say Furada but at the beginning of time. They say Salatul Jama'ah is more important, because there is so much benefit and so much sawab and reward for Salatul Jama'ah that would compensate. And we should not let shaitan also take advantage of our interest in presence of heart by then making every person say Salat at home. Okay? So we have lots of opportunity to say Salat at home. For example, Nawafil, we should not do Jama'ah, and it's better to do Nawafil at home. You can do it in masjid, of course, but maybe it's better, if possible, to do at home, unless, for example, there is a place that you go alone and you do Salatul Layl without no one understanding, or in the shrines, etc. That's other issue. But we are recommended not to say or Salat outside. Say some of your Salat, like Nawafil, some recitation of the Quran, at home. Home should be blessed with ibadah and recitation, but wajibat, we should try to do Jama'ah, and especially if there is masjid, if there is a place that we can do as community, that's even better than prayer alone, even if you have more presence of heart. Thank you for question. Is there any other question? May Allah bless you. Is there another question? Okay, so we can end with Dua Faraj. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma kulli waliyyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'ih fi hadhihi as-sa'ati wa fi kulli sa'ah وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا وامنن علينا برضاه وهب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاءه وخيره. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم ارحم موتانا، اللهم اقض حوائجنا، اللهم يسر أمورنا ببركة الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد. التماس دعاء. في امان الله. خداحافظ.
خداحافظ.
خداحافظ.